What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Thrift Shopping, and today we are going to be talking about all of the weapons that we have in the game and how they stack up respective to one another as per damage calculations. I've made a lot of videos on this topic in recent metagames, especially when we hit Ritem and we hit the Kavaris region. So it's time that we dive into all of the updates that we received on October the 5th and see how some of these weapon series stack up to one another. Now, first things first, I want to give a huge shout out to Cakewalk. She is an absolute angel, and she has carried the torch for the previous damage calculator tool that was made by Rayatsu, and she has made this tool that you see on the screen right now. I'm going to have a link down below to this damage calculator so you can modify it as you wish, but I am going to go through and show you what you should be changing so that you get accurate information for yourself. And then I will be explaining what I will be using today for our damage charts that I will be showing in a little bit. Before we begin on the damage calculation, let's go ahead and talk about the Obsidia series that we just received in game. This is the new 7-star weapon series that can drop exclusively from rank 4 enhanced enemies. And on the 26th, it will be achievable as a title reward for completing the Ordinal Tower once that Aleo update is released. And it is just as powerful as the Kaiser series and Rugged series that we have in the game currently. It boasts 674 attack power at level 50, and it also has that 50% to 100% damage variance, and it's going to require level 61 to equip. Its item potential is called Coruscating Unit, and at level 4, it provides 18% potency, 10% critical rate, 20% damage resistance, and natural PP recovery speed is increased by 30% for 20 seconds after a critical hit, and that has a 10-second cooldown. And let's get back into that damage calculator. Before you do anything, you need to make sure you make a copy of this damage calculator to be able to modify anything, and make sure you only modify the orange cells. Now, a lot of this information you really don't have to mess with. Things such as the class and like the enemy damage reduction and attack multiplier don't necessarily matter, since all of the damage that you are going to see in this chart here, it's going to affect every single weapon. However, if you are trying to get very specific information, you can go ahead and modify that. The things you really need to focus on to get an accurate calculation is right here, the add-on skills. You have the ability to turn on these add-on skills, modify all of the levels for these. For this video, I am turning them off since not all of us have the same add-on skill level. And specifically speaking for Braver, the Braver add-on skill adds critical potency. That's going to add additional damage when you do a crit. That is going to affect Fixa Fatale builds and Fixa Termina builds more than it would a Fixa Attack build. So when you are making your calculations, you have the choice to turn this on or turn this off. For this video, we're going to keep that off. Now, what you really need to be modifying are these 4 sections down below. If you have a specific weapon you are using or are curious about, you can go ahead and select it from the drop-down menu. You can also just go ahead and type it in and select it as well. We are going to stick to the Kaiser weapon for today, but you can change that if you wish to. Down below, you can change the Fixa, and you can also change all of the capsules. You want to change these to either capsules you are currently using or wish to use. In our examples for today's video, I will be using our best potency build that we can use for a 7-star weapon series, which will be a Stat 4 capsule, Boss Soul 4 capsule, a Gigastat capsule, an Addy Deft capsule, and Mastery 4 capsules. Of course, not everybody is going to be able to get these capsules. However, this is just going to serve as that baseline of what is possible for every single weapon with what we technically have in the game right now. Once you do that for your weapon, you're going to do that for all 3 of your armors. I'm going to be equipping the Ephitus armor since they are 3 potency units, and once again choosing all of the capsules for them. Once you get all 3 of those armors done and that weapon, you now have, scroll out a bit, you will now have a completed table. But this table is going to be based off of the enemy level and if it's bossing or not. So if you were trying to get assessments on how good a mobbing weapon would be for the rank 4 combat sectors, you can change this to level 60. That's going to change how some of these weapons compare to one another. Now, if you're trying to see how good these weapons would be towards the Gigantics that we have in the game, those are level 69. So you'd want to scroll down to level 69 to get the accurate defensive value, and you would want to check mark on bossing since we're fighting a boss. And that's going to get you accurate information for bossing against level 69 Gigantics. So once you do that, once you get all your information in here, you're going to get some damage charts like I am showing on the screen right now. Right now, we're going to be looking at a level 60 enemy damage chart. So this is for anybody looking for a good mobbing weapon for these rank 4 combat sectors. And as you can see here, the Kaiser is our baseline. So any cell that is marked red is performing weaker than a Kaiser, and any cell that is marked green is performing stronger than a Kaiser. And you're going to see there is a bunch of green cells, and they're from these 1 to 6 star rarity weapons. And this is due to that limit breaking to level 60 and that 5th item potential level. This really helped out a bunch of series catch up to the battle effectiveness that we have been observing with 7-star weapon series. And one of the most revealing pieces of information we get from this chart is the Trade series. This is a 3-star weapon series that a lot of us have slept on. It was cool. It had a really unique item potential, which gave you critical hit rate as your attack power increased. But unfortunately, back in Alien Retem, you could never reach enough attack power because we just didn't have enough levels. Since we are level 65, we are getting enough attack power that we are really taking advantage of that item potential. If I recall right now, you get about 22% critical hit rate from this item potential as long as you're level 65. So you're getting a bunch of crit hit rate from that item potential, and when you crit in game, you're guaranteed to get a max roll. So you're ignoring all damage variants on that weapon, and so the more crits means you're getting more consistent high-end damage, and that's where you're seeing even a Fixa Attack 1 or a Fixa Termina 1 Trade series is outperforming a Clean Kaiser series with the exact same capsules. So this is one of the coolest things that we got in game right now, is that you can be using these really old weapon series and you can outperform what we currently have in the game as the best. So yeah, if you were looking for a good farming weapon, you can go into Sectal. Sectal is technically the highest performing weapon at 8% better effectiveness than Kaiser when you are strictly mobbing. However, I will be showing you in the bossing charts that Trade does not joke around. But it's not only just those two weapon series. Really, any high Fixa Attack or Fixa Fatale 1 to 6 star weapon series is outperforming Kaiser, and essentially would be outperforming Obsidia or even rugged weapons at this point for mobbing. So you have a bunch of choices when it comes to looking for a great mobbing weapon to go ahead and farm at these rank 4 combat sectors. Now let's go ahead and talk about bossing. So we set that enemy level to 69. We're strictly talking about Gigantics enemies and the purple trigger enemies we will be observing. And as you see here, there is a huge drop off from 1 to 6 star weapons to 7-star weapons. However, as I say that, I want to point your attention back to the Trade weapon series. You're going to see here with a high Fixa Attack or high Fixa Termina Trade weapon, you're within 1 to 2% battle effectiveness of that Kaiser series. So once again, a 3-star weapon series is just as strong as our 7-star weapons in the game, fighting the hardest content that we have. This is a really neat thing to see. You have stuff like Cinquam within 2%. You have things like Griega, since they're a bossing weapon, within 1% if you have a Fixa 5 attack. So it's really cool, especially if you're looking for something fun to do or something interesting to use. Maybe you have these weapons in your storage from the Retem days, and now you can limit break them and use them again because they're just as good now. That limit break to 60 and level 5 unlock potential really helped out a lot of these weapons. This isn't the only content that we have. I do want to shine some light on Dark Falz rank 2, and I think this is where a lot of the hype for Trade has been coming from, because Dark Falz is a level 64 boss, and when you factor in the reduced enemy defense due to being 64, Trade is actually stronger than a Kaiser weapon series for this boss fight. Even Griega Fixa Attack 1 is technically better than Kaiser as of right now if you were to go do any Dark Falz rank 2 fights. I hope your mind is blown at some of that data, but let's take a step back and discuss this in further detail. So the TLDR of what we just discussed is that many of these 1 to 6 star weapons are perfectly suited for mobbing these rank 4 combat sectors. They're going to do a lot of damage, they're going to be just fine. But those 1 to 6 star weapons are going to fall off at about a 6 to 10% damage difference when you compare it to 7-star weapons when you fight boss enemies. And we didn't even factor in add-on skills, but when you do add those in, especially the braver add-on skill, the damage disparity is going to increase even further. For most of these weapon series, it's going to be within 10 to 15% damage difference observed. The only real outliers to this is going to be the Trade series. Since they give so much critical hit rate with their new level 5 item potential, they actually perform tremendous against level 60 monsters for mobbing. They perform the strongest against Dark Falz rank 2, and against level 69 Gigantic monsters, they are just a couple percent weaker than what we observe with 7-star weapons. You could also group Griega in here as well. They would fall short a bit in the mobbing aspect of content, but for any bossing, since they get that additional potency when fighting boss enemies, they would be very strong for the current game. With all of that being said, you do need to remember that we are going to see limit break to 60 for these 7-star weapons. So as of right now, these lower rarity weapons are just as strong, but once we get that limit break to 60 for the 7 stars, they're gonna be way strong again. So don't completely invest into these lower rarity weapons thinking it's a great investment for the future. Right now they're really fun, right now they're really strong. Who knows how long that's going to last? I suspect that we are going to see that limit break ability for 7 stars coming in November, most likely. And last but not least, we talked about the Obsidia series a little bit, but I want to bring it back up here. Is Obsidia worth your time? In my opinion, it is not going to be worth your time. It offers the defensive attributes, which really aren't necessary right now for our current game. And moving forward, when you get into Stia, you're going to be replacing this weapon series pretty soon. So it's going to serve little use against even higher level monsters when we encounter them in the Stia region, because you're probably going to be switching out of your weapon very soon. We still have Rugged as our strongest weapon in the game, with that pursuit unit being the strongest. In the damage calculation, it doesn't showcase the pursuit unit's item potential that well, because it attacks every 5 seconds and it can attack randomly between 1 to 3 times. It's very hard to calculate. And Kaiser is most likely our second best 7-star still in the game, since it provides so many offensive benefits that you cannot factor in with the damage calculator. Much like the pursuit unit, it's hard to calculate. You can't really calculate the value of PP consumption reduction that Kaiser provides, and you can't factor in the increased photon blast charge rate. These both are going to allow you to attack with photon arts more often, which is going to increase the damage you do. And if you're charging a photon blast quicker, you're using the strongest attacks we have in the game more frequently, which is going to affect your damage as well. The calculator is great, but it's not going to factor in absolutely everything. So at the end of the day, you always need to reflect on the weapon series you're choosing and really identify why you like this weapon series more than others. Don't just look at the raw stats and be like, this is the best. It's a case-by-case basis. You might find value in an item potential and what it provides. As I said at the top of the video, Obsidia, if you're focusing on a more balanced build or tanky build, that 20% damage reduction is going to be more value to you. So just understand that stats are good, and it's nice to look at these calculators to see where to compare these weapon series, but you always have to look at the finer details and understand what is going to work for you and your build. And that is it, guys. I hope you had a good time diving into all of these weapons and how they compare to one another. This is a really fun time for building, a really great time to actually use some of those old weapons. And yeah, guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video really soon.